I filled my dog's food bowl and slapped my legs. "Here, boy, time for food!" But he never came. I instantly checked under the table where he usually hides, but he wasn't there, and that's when I heard barking outside. I ran out and saw Bear half-bald in between my neighbor's legs, while my neighbor shaved his hair off. I just moved, and this was my first time meeting him. "What the hell are you doing with my dog? I don't even know you!" I sprinted over and grabbed the razor from him, but he looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Stop, just let me do this." I started shaking with anger. "Absolutely not." But before I beat his I bent down to comfort Bear, and he was completely still. I whispered, "It's okay, boy, you're with me." He reached his paw out, and for a second I held it, and the innocent look in his eyes made me even angrier. I shot up and grabbed the man's wrist, and with my other hand, I grabbed the shaver and threw it across the yard. "Give me one good reason why I shouldn't call the police, you sick freak." My neighbor took 10 steps backwards, eyes locked on mine. "I'll show you." Before I could say anything, he cupped his hands over his mouth and yelled, "Lucky, come here, boy!" I watched helplessly as my dog ran over to him and started licking his face. My neighbor carried him back towards me and finally explained, "My dog Lucky has been missing for 5 years." He pointed at the area he'd shaved off. He had this exact scar in the shape of a lightning bolt. I knew I recognized him, but I couldn't be sure unless I shaved. I knelt down and scratched his belly one last time. "Go home, Lucky." I walked back inside. The bowl I'd filled that morning was still full on the floor, and I left it there. Me and my girlfriend's snowmobile started smoking up when we were 100 miles deep into the mountains. I sprinted around and yanked the starter cord over and over, but the engine started sputtering and I knew it was cooked. Alice took my hand and her lip was quivering. We're going to be okay, right?" I smiled like it was obvious. "Of course we are. Your brother knows we're meant to be back soon. I'm sure he'll find us." But the sun was already setting. There was no phone signal, and I had no idea if we were going to live or die. She asked, "So how much food do we have?" I dug through the backpack and found 3 crushed crackers and 2 fruit roll-ups. I forced myself to smile. "Plenty, don't even worry about it." The sky turned dark, and it was so cold it took everything in me not to shiver. Alice was wearing my gloves and scarf, so I started making a shelter out of packed snow with bare hands until I couldn't feel them. When I was done, I led her inside, and I wanted to give her my jacket. But first, I had to take out the ring that I was going to use to propose, and then I wrapped it around her to keep her warm while she slept. I tried counting her breaths while she slept so I could stay awake and keep us safe from danger. But after a few hours, my eyes started to close and I couldn't fight it anymore. I woke up a few hours later to a dog sniffing me. When I opened my eyes, Alice was standing there with her brother and a team of ski patrol dogs. Her brother fist bumped me. "Nice job on the igloo. Because of the igloo, we found you guys immediately." Alice smiled. "Right before we lost signal, I told my brother our snowmobile broke down, and he told me he'd find us." I instantly stood up. "Why the hell didn't you tell me?" She took my hands. "I knew that the only way you'd survive was if you thought you had to stay strong for me, so I pretended to be scared the whole time." I gasped, because the whole time she was lying to keep me calm. I was lying to keep her alive. I immediately took out the ring from my jean pocket and got on one knee. "Alice, will you marry me?" I walked past my computer and saw my daughter furiously clicking the keyboard, her fingers slamming every key with power. I leaned over and realized she was typing a comment under a video of a 10-year-old boy playing video games. "I'm gonna punch you so hard you're going to cry. I know where you live." She pressed the enter key, but before I could tell her to stop, I saw something that made me grip my desk. She had posted the comment under my YouTube account, which had videos of me gaming on it. I immediately got her off the chair and opened my comment history, then started hysterically laughing because if I didn't, I would cry. She'd left hundreds of comments under videos of little kids. "I'm gonna beat you up. I'm coming for you. I'm hiding in your closet." She had accidentally made it look like me, a 34-year-old, was threatening kids online. I immediately went to start deleting the comments, but then my doorbell rang. 2 officers walked into my house. "We need to search your computer. We've heard suspicious activity from it." My legs froze as I led them to my computer, trying to explain everything. But the comment, "You look punchable," was already open under my account, making me look even worse. They glanced once at the screen and began putting cuffs on me. I screamed, "It wasn't me. My daughter left these comments." She came running and begged the officers to believe me, screaming it was her, but they kept walking me out. That's when I remembered that every time I logged into my PC, my webcam automatically started recording my face for my gaming videos. I begged the cops to check the footage, and they reluctantly pulled it up. We watched my daughter hop in my chair with a grin and type manically for hours at a time. The timestamps of the videos matched when the comments were left. The officers apologized and walked out, and as I started deleting everything, my daughter tapped my shoulder. "Was my trolling at least funny, Dad?" My mom swore our dog would never set foot in the house, until the night someone broke in changed her mind for good. Mom grabbed her purse on her way out, the first time she'd ever left me home alone, and stopped in the doorway. "Don't let anybody in the house, and the dog stays outside." Then she was gone. I went out back to say goodnight to Hank, curled up in the doghouse where he'd slept ever since she hammered a 2x4 over the doggy door. He tripped over his own paws, scrambling up to lick my face. "Good night, buddy. Wish you could come in." I gave him one last pat, went inside, and crawled into bed. I was almost asleep when glass shattered in the kitchen. My eyes shot open, and my heart was pounding. Footsteps crept down the hall. I slid off the bed and pressed myself against the closet door, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. The burglar searched my parents' room. Then the footsteps came back and stopped outside mine. A flashlight beam cut under my door. I slapped a hand over my mouth and held my breath. The doorknob started to turn. A baseball bat leaned in the corner of the closet and I lunged for it. Just as my hand closed around it, a massive crack split the silence, then splintering wood, then furious barking tearing down the hall. My door burst open and Hank flew into the man like a missile, knocking him flat. The man screamed. I stayed frozen in the closet while Hank clamped onto his leg and dragged him backward out of the room. The man clawed at the carpet, but Hank hauled him down the hall and into the living room. I got there just as he ripped free and crashed back out the broken kitchen window. I dropped down and threw my arms around Hank while he licked my face and wagged his tail. The cops caught him a few blocks away, following the blood trail. When my parents got home, Mom's eyes went from Hank to the splintered 2x4 on the kitchen floor, to me holding him on the couch. Without a word, she pulled the good blanket out of the closet and laid it at the foot of my bed. Hank has slept there every night since. My grandma solved an escape room by cleaning it, and we spent the first 40 minutes begging her to stop. We took her for her 72nd birthday because my cousin Nate said she needed something exciting, and Grandma said paying to be locked in a dusty room sounded like a punishment. The room was called The Haunted Study. Fake candles flickered on crooked shelves, cobwebs hung over a tea tray, and a portrait of a creepy old man tilted over the fireplace. The employee started the timer. "You have 60 minutes to escape." Grandma grabbed a tissue from her purse and wiped a teacup. Nate groaned. "Grandma, that's not a clue." She set the cup back on the tray anyway, and a drawer clicked open behind us. Everyone froze. Grandma pointed at the dust on the saucers. "You're welcome." Nate found a riddle under the desk and shouted about moon phases while Grandma folded the blanket on the couch and shook a key onto the floor. My sister tried matching wallpaper symbols, but Grandma started shelving books by height before we could copy the pattern. "Wait, those books were in order," Nate said, dropping to his knees as the timer slipped under 20 minutes. Grandma slid the last book into place anyway, and the numbers 418 appeared across the spines. "Stop touching things," Nate said, grabbing a brass compass from her hand. "This is an escape room, not your church basement." Grandma snatched it back, wiped the dust off, and the compass needle swung toward the clock. With 5 minutes left, we had 3 keys, 4 numbers, and 1 locked bookcase that still refused to open. Worse, Grandma had put away every loose prop. The missing feather went in a pen cup. The old letter was flattened under a paperweight. The extra teacup was back on the tray. Nate pressed both hands to his head. She cleaned our last clue into the furniture. For the first time, Grandma stopped moving. The speaker crackled. "Would you like a hint?" Nate slapped the wall button. "Yes." Grandma slapped his hand away. "No." She stood in front of the tea tray, lips tight, counting under her breath. "4 cups," she said. 5 saucers. I stared at the tray. 1 empty saucer sat under the clock painted on the tablecloth. Grandma picked up the cup she had wiped at the start, placed it on the empty saucer, and turned the handle toward the real clock on the wall. The locked bookcase groaned open. We ran through with 8 seconds left. The employee stared at the monitor. "You used no hints?" Grandma handed him the dusty tissue. "Next time, clean first." It was my 5th year in a row as a trained space mechanic when I was finally allowed into space in the rocket. My commander scoffed. "Looks like someone owed NASA a favor and sent us Bob the Builder to help." I ignored him and went to use the panels I'd spent 3 years in training on, and he shoved me away. "Calm down, son. You're just the mechanic, not a real pilot." He snapped the latch shut. "We'll let you know if the toilet needs plunging." I looked around and saw my entire crew with their arms crossed, rolling their eyes at me, all making it clear they didn't trust me. As we launched into the sky, I smiled and crossed my arms back because I knew the moment was coming when I'd make them eat their words. 3 days in, I ran my hand along a seam in the back wall and felt it loose. "Sir, there's a weakness in the wall. It could be serious. I think you should take a look at it." But he didn't even look up. "Leave the worrying to real astronauts." Before I could respond, a bang threw the cabin sideways. I turned around and saw the seam had already split open. The screen flashed red, cabin losing air. 60 seconds left. I lunged for the wall, but the commander shoved me back. "Get out of the way! You're making it worse!" He slammed every button on the panel, but the hissing only got louder because you can't push a button to fix a hole. The pilot froze, and the entire cabin went dead silent. The commander finally turned to me, his voice quieter than ever. "Can you fix it?" I pulled the tool roll he'd mocked, wedged into the gap behind the wall where no pilot fits, and got my hands on the crack I'd warned him about. I knew right where she was weak because I built her. I drove the seal into the seam and held it until the hissing died. The screen turned green, cabin sealed. The commander couldn't push a button to save them. The mechanic they laughed at did it with his hands. He keyed the radio to report it to the ground, and the whole world was listening. When we finally landed back on Earth, my entire team cheered me on to the public who'd all been waiting for us. "He saved our lives," my commander spoke through gritted teeth.